All right, everybody. It's Friday. It's 12 noon Eastern, so that means it's Q&A with Alan and Marshall. Except Marshall is not here. He had some family business to attend to. So Marshall's so important, it takes two major people
Yeah.
to fill in for him. So I am really excited about this show. It's been being planned. This is going to be all screen printing, all production. So we have two of the best guys in the industry here with us. We have, of course, Mark Suhadolnik, applications specialist with Graphic Solutions, who is our sponsor, who we love, and Josh Wylie from IGG in El Reno, Oklahoma, who really is just a process-oriented shop, and excited to have him on. And we just lost him. There we go.
He didn't pay power bill today.
Yeah.
Exactly. So how are you guys doing today?
I'm tired. I just flew in from Denver.
Yeah. So how was the GSG, the new location out west in Denver? You had an open house.
It was really, how was that? Yeah, it was a fun day. We had about 175 different, not 175 shops, 175, people, a lot of different shops, a lot of the big players in the Denver and surrounding area.
Good.
Really good people. It was different in the way that when we do open houses, we know a lot of our existing customers, and this is new territory for us. Yep. So we got to meet, these individuals for the first time. So it was a good time. Flight getting canceled, coming home, had to get up at 3:00 in the morning to get the 5 a.m. flight back here. So.
And glad you literally just got into your office an hour ago, you said.
Yeah. Yep. So.
That's the story of our life. And I will see you next week at GPX Indianapolis. Yeah.
Yep. It's going to be a good show.
Yep. Josh, how have you been this week? What's going on at IGG?
We're training new employees. We got new salesmen starting this morning. Trying to just navigate our way and be faster what we do every day.
Every day, trying to be a little bit faster on there. That's about the story of it. Good. Glad everything's going well. Let me going to go down. We're going to do a little housekeeping right now. Of course, this show is sponsored by Graphic Solutions Group, who Mark works for, and we work closely with him on this show. So let's, if you're not familiar with them, let's show you what they're about. So hang on.
GSG, the combination of over half a century of knowledge with industry-leading technology and the customer at the center of everything that we do. Graphic Solutions Group is a powerhouse distributor of traditional screen, sign, wide format digital printing, embroidery, and textile decorating. We are committed to our customers, providing support, educational, and consulting services. Your success is our success. We've seen these industries grow and change in our 70 years. One thing never changes: GSG's dedication providing the best products and services available. We've been around, we'll be around, from the highs and the lows, standing right here with you. GSG, the right products, right away.
All right. So
I've never watched that.
You've never watched it, Mark?
He's got such good skills, dude. He's got such good skills.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, man.
Daniel did a great job on it. So
And, we were speaking of Denver before. Now Denver is our 10th location. So,
wow, that's right.
Yeah. Just growing. Keep going.
Keep going. A little bit more at a time. So cool. Yeah. Well, we got some people watching. Let's say hello. Of course, Cindy from right there in Texas. Hope you're doing well. From up in Canada, Chris from there. Good morning, Inksliners. Our buddy Simon from Techmar It's a gloomy day in Southern California. Oh, that's right. We're dry as can be here in Michigan. There's actually some fire warnings, so no some burn bans up in northern Michigan. So great.
Well,
Now,
the fires are in Canada now.
they
You see
are.
pictures of city and such.
I actually haven't. I
Yeah.
don't pay attention to stuff like that. It's actually affected us where you can smell the smoke a little bit. And there's been
Really?
some stuff through New York and into Michigan where they're saying some of the air quality. I guess the baseball game, the Detroit Tigers and Philadelphia Phillies are in Philadelphia were canceled. And I guess my parents in Florida were all concerned, and I didn't even realize that she told me. And I'm like, Mom, stop watching the news. You know,
News isn't good.
it isn't. So anyways, we are a sponsored show, but you know what, how we get people here, we love the people. If you're watching and you want to this is interactive, it's called Q&A because it's all about your questions, and we're going to try to have answers. We do have some topics, but we can go off topic anytime. Make sure, if you're watching, man, make sure you share it with someone. And we'll go from there. Share it and tell everybody about it. That's how we get viewers. So, all right. So, guys, you came up with
What's first?
Yeah. Where do you want to start? You think?
What do we have first? What was the subject? Production. How do we make money printing?
How about this one? Because
nice. My gosh, this is a sore subject.
it is, but one that you battle every day, and you've done a lot of things.
We pretty much I wipe ink on my guys if it's in their location and it's nasty. Like how I fix it is I grab it and wipe it on you. I was like, why would you leave that at your house? Would you just leave ink everywhere and put it everywhere? And I literally wipe it on them. And I mean, it sounds mean, but it really, it's my stuff. Keep it clean, because that one little dab of ink gets on everything, and then it transfers across the shop, and then you catch it on 150 shirts at the back of the dryer, and you're paying somebody $15 an hour to spray out that job. And then you never know if it might dye migrate because it's a random shirt that you've never sprayed out before, and now you've got a spot that you have to explain or reprint. Clean, man. We wipe our press down once a week, no matter what. You can always stop for a little bit to clean everything, oil everything down, get all the residue off, blow out your filters, everything like that. I can't see how many people that are on the forums all the time. Hey, why is my machine making this? And there's like this much lint on top of their.
Yeah.
It's making it because it can't breathe, man. It's a machine. Yeah.
Well, when you use a lot of spray adhesive and that adhesive gets around, even on the manual press, man, it gets into even especially an automatic, that adhesive is going into cylinders and everything like that. It's like, man, I don't get it. I mean, this is capital equipment. And even on a manual, when you're a one color, your first manual, that's big money to you. Man, that gets into those springs, it pops the springs. It's just, into the micros. It's just not, it's not wise, but it actually makes you unprofitable too.
Well, there's the classic excuse: a clean shop's not a busy shop. And that's completely false.
Right.
The clean shop comes down to, you just have to do it. There's lots of excuses, but my previous shop, how big it was with 18 autos, you could eat something off the floor. It was spotless, even the screen room, everything. It's, you want to bring customers back. That's what they want to see. There's just, you go into a shop, and I have certain pet peeves in shops, but flashes and dryers are not tables. How many times do we go in and there's wet, dirty squeegees lined up on them? And it's bad habits. And they're hard to break, but you have to do it.
Absolutely. You know what? Is screen printing, can it be messy? Can it be dirty? Yes, but it doesn't have to stay that way is the problem.
Right.
When something gets stripped, when something gets there, man, clean it up. And that's how problems happen. Yes, we have spot cleaning guns because things happen, but they don't need to be part of production. And you know what? When it comes to adhesive, why more and more people aren't using a water-based adhesive, I'll never know.
Doing water-based adhesive since like month 2. I mean, I caught because it's a small shop, you start out as everything. So I was in the middle of a print job and the phone rang, and I left my a t-shirt underneath the flash, and that spray adhesive was up underneath the walls and on the ceiling, and the shirt caught on fire and lit my whole room on fire, caught everything up, just big old flame. And I was like, I'm done. I called GSG and was like, hey, what happened? It was like, oh, that's the cobwebs from the spray adhesive that caught on fire. And I'm like, okay, so what do I do? And they were like, this is water-based adhesive, and you put it on like this, and then we haven't looked back, man.
And it's not so much the adhesive that burns. I think it's, we forget what we make a ton of in printing, and that's lint. Yeah, absolutely. So we got some comments here. Ray Markey from Everett says, we can use right here in Flint, Michigan. We can use some rain in the Minton. He says all he has to do is schedule a teen time in Lorraine. Works like a charm. Well, we're supposed to get some rain this weekend, so I bet you scheduled, didn't you, Ray? Simon says, but cleaning out spots keeps some of us in business. LOL.
Yeah,
and Simon works
that's a good point.
It does. But you know what, Simon, you would agree, it's not part of manufacturing. It is a great tool. Everybody needs to have it because things do happen. It saves garments. But the worst sound for any production manager should be that gun going off continually.
Yep. I hate it. It's the worst noise to me, dude.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's see if we know anyone that can help with adhesive overspray. We just talked about that with water-based adhesive. Simon, of course, has Techmar, which is GSG cells. Charles from New Mexico is here with us. We clean every ink bucket before it's put away, every squeegee and screen squeegee and flood bar are clean as they come off the press. Entire shop is cleaned weekly. Shop should stay clean. 100% agreed. He also says, don't use spray, problem solved.
Don't use spray.
Pretty much is it.
Expensive, like by double, so they don't have a choice. Just use water-based.
Chris says use a cardboard beer box to catch spray. I think that's just a way to empty a beer box. But the better way would just go to a water-based adhesive.
Hey,
how about this? Charles says we don't own a spot gun. We have good prep press procedures which make it we don't have pinholes. I don't see, Mark and Josh, what do you think? I don't see as much pinholes anymore as we used to back in the day.
No.
As something gets on someone's hand or finger and they don't realize it.
That's more what we see. I don't see it's a human contamination or material contamination over a pinhole for us.
Or worse, it gets on the back of your arm or something, and then plastisol is the gift that keeps on giving. It gets on you, you don't know it. It's now on another shirt, another stack of shirts. It's in your car. It's now on the kids, the dog, the cat.
The living room carpet.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Everything's got to have a home too. You can't just be randomly placing crap all throughout the shop and looking for it all day. Up and down times. Man, our squeegees all have a place. That all the durometers go together. All the flood bars have a place. All of our gloves have a place. All of our paper towels have a home. It's all got to be within arm's reach. If your guy spends 30 minutes a day looking for materials, that's 2.5 hours a week. He's not doing anything. Just looking for stuff he should have at his hands. This was slow time this year right here. We made a thing to hold our gloves, and we made card holders. So we put our dead screen up there right there. Anything that guy needs is within his arm reach right there. So he's not looking anywhere. He's got a cart right next to him that's dumped full of screens that just came off the press. The other guys are already moving the job back around, and he's just literally putting screens back in. So there's flood bar squeegees. We literally dump it as fast as possible and get back to printing.
And these are some of the pictures I'm showing from Josh's shop he sent. This is my favorite on cleaning up and everything right here. Cleanup cards right there on the print head. That is ingenious. Now, how do you keep those held on there?
Earth magnets and smashed them in between two cleanup cards, and then we used screen tape, the never-ending super polycon tape to make the little cards, and it holds 50 cards on each head, and it clears every time. So if they get dirty, we can pull them off. There's all our squeegees and flood bars.
Yep.
They're all dirty every day, so we only have enough to run for about a day and a half, but we're constantly cleaning. But they all have a place. They all go somewhere every day. Every job has a cart, so all the buckets can be loaded on that, ready to go. My production manager's mixing inks a day ahead. We try, like I said, you make a mistake and you don't mix the inks, you don't get on press for 2.5 hours because they're mixing inks. And
Right.
and you would think the formulas are always right in the software, but they're not.
Right.
You'll get one and it's off, and you've got to email them, and that's a day the job's got to go out by 4, and it's just not going to happen because you're waiting on the email confirmation for the right formula. So,
yeah, so that's a great point of, just in profitability for you and production processes, having the inks and squeegees ready. So, Josh, we were talking before the show that your screens are ready when, like for today's production. When were those screens processed and developed?
2 days ahead. We're trying to be 2 days ahead of production. We would like garments to hit and be ready to go into production that day. Sometimes we have trouble with artwork, something didn't get wrong, and we might have to wait a day. But when everything's flowing good and we don't have any trouble, we should have screens burnt a day before the job drops, if not the day the job drops. And they're burnt. They might not be taped and coated, but they're burnt, dried, and ready to go on the floor.
Right. Right, absolutely. And then are your inks mixed the day before?
Mixed, ready, and labeled, and ready to be just put on press. All they have to do is be warmed up and ready to go. Pre-production comes in and mixes the black and the white every morning and gets it smoothed up, ready to go. We have our press operator staggered. My production manager comes in at 8, and my press operators operate at 8:30 and 9. They just tag team who comes in. That way our press is running by like 9:15 in the morning, instead of everybody coming in here at 9, warming everything up, getting everything ready, and we're really not printing until 10:30 in the morning. Just coming in and staggering, we're moving faster. And these are the little minutes you try to add every day, because every time you're not printing, it's killing us. Right now, where we're up and down, and we need to have somebody come in and service our press, which GSG does. And that's where we're messing up and down. We have 3 or 4 heads that are messing with us. We're having trouble with some locks, and we're having trouble with some registration. So we're spending maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes on a head where it should be 2 minutes. And it's random jobs. So that's how we really try to be oriented. You've got to have a plan every day. You can't just come in and go, well, I know we got to print job A, B, and C today. Let's see what we got to do when we get there.
Yeah.
You've got to have A, B, and C ready to go, and be ready to go when you get there, and have everybody on the same page. And that's really what you've got to learn. Go get the job. Go get that 3,000 piece order. How do you print that 3,000 piece order? How much ink do you need? How long are the screens going to last you? Do you have the right squeegees? Do you have the right ink? The whole 9 yards. It's insane.
Right. Mark, you're like me. You go into quite a few shops, and I see this all the time where people are waiting last minute on stuff. And you actually consult in production, one of the services of GSG. How big of a problem do you see this?
Daily. I'm sometimes it's kind of like it's mind blowing when you go to a shop and they're running multiple auto presses, and we're coming in, we're going to do something. Maybe we'll just say working with white ink, whatever the case may be, and they have no clean screens. There's no screens to coat. And you go in the screen department, and there's 300 dirty screens stacked up. It's just, as Josh was saying, it's just staying on top of things and, you know, avoiding like distractions throughout the day. What I mean by the distractions is, to Josh's point about having everything by the press. You know, my last shop, you know, where we kept the screen room was 200 yards away. You know,
Right.
we wouldn't need, you know, if somebody had to get a roll of tape or whatever, heck, they could be gone for 45 minutes, you know, and that machine's not running. It's just, you know, staying on the point of like cleanliness, to me, it's disheartening. I go in and places are just an absolute mess.
Yep.
And especially, you know, they have a brand new, you know, $150,000-$160,000 press. It's got ink all over it. It's covered in lint. And I've seen some that, you know, the machine literally has only been in the shop 3 months, and it looks like it's been there 5 years.
Yep. Yeah. I've seen it too. It is disheartening.
Yeah.
You know what? But it's also, these are the places that seem like going, what can I do to increase my production? Well, how about forget increasing your production? How about getting rid of your downtime?
Right.
You know, how about making everything work, you know, better?
Yep.
The other part is, I see it, Mark, where it starts off small, and Josh, you probably run into this, these little issues. Anytime you scale up production, you know, everybody wants to scale and think, okay, I have money for a new press and stuff, but they forget the biggest part is, what are you doing about your procedures? Because now your procedures, where you're not tight in that area, when you've just scaled up, that error increases with distance, with size on there. So now
you get hit by a mortar. Yeah.
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 And that is where I see people, as they're scaling, going, I've gotten bigger with more orders, and my bank account is going down, down, down.
Right.
Because yes, it's all about cash flow, but it's also about your resources, your people, and your processes. And they don't scale their processes.
Well, and when you scale up, say, you know, you have one auto, you're going to, you know, your second auto. Are you getting more squeegees, flood bars? You know, are you increasing the amount of screens you keep on hand? You know, whatever your inventory of screens is, it's gonna double. And I've seen it where, you know, shops are organized. They have their jobs are ready, you know, staged for the day.
Mhm.
They add another press, then all of a sudden they have nothing for the next, but just because of the efficiency of why they need a press, because they have so much more business. But scaling, you know, comes down to your exposure unit too.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You got to handle, you know, you are just going to do one screen at a time. You know, you're going to do a 2331 screen. You're going to do two. You need you know, your registration system. You know, is it implemented? Are you using it correctly? It all comes into play. And a lot of it is, you know, the old classic, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And, you know, like next week, you will be in Indianapolis at the GPX show. I meet a tremendous amount of people. They never go to shows, or, you know, or the owner or the manager will go to the show and not bring anybody else. But do they, you know, bring that information back and share it with, you know, their guys and girls in production?
Absolutely. We got a couple comments on here. Davis Lego says, Josh, your beard is on point.
Yeah.
Cindy says, when someone forgets to tape off targets and you need a spot gun, yes, you do on there. And then the key is to make sure the targets are, you know, where did the process break down? It's fix that process. Where was the breakdown at? And, you know, people make mistakes. You know, I think we need to start looking at processes too, going, why are we relying on a person, whether it's Mark or Josh or me? We are all fallible, and we have our little off moments. And if you can make something where it's not human, you know, driven, you know, shame on the manager for having that. So sometimes it just is, but yeah. Heather from Cave City says, good morning. Chris says, I don't run a spot gun. I've had maybe 2 pinholes and hundreds of screens I've coated. Shop clean shop helps tremendously. It does. She says, very nice. We got Sheehan Fernando from Sri Lanka watching. So Sheehan, thank you very much. And Sean from Alpharetta, Georgia, tuning in. So Sean, it was good. I was on a call with you yesterday, so it was good talking to you. And I'll see you in Nashville next week. So lots of people. This is good stuff, man. On there, this is stuff that doesn't get talked about enough. And I've been thinking about it a lot because there are people talking about scaling. Scaling up, lots of them, and they are forgetting this. And Mark, frankly, it scares me with some shops because they're going to scale themselves up right out of business, I'm afraid.
Well, we're working with an unnamed shop right now that we just installed the first 12 Cobras at, and all the new Sprint 3000s, and looking at their big picture and their scale, and the 2-year plan is 68 automatic presses. And when you get that big, and we have a couple of customers around that size, it changes everything. It comes down to, you can't have every squeegee dirty. You have to have job cards. You have to have the organization, because when you get to that size, in my opinion, it doesn't matter if you're making toasters or printing T-shirts. It's a factory at that point. And to quote our good friend, old Uncle Richard Greaves, you got to mix and lean. That comes into it right there. It's funny because Richard always likes to bring that up, but it doesn't matter if you're running 2 manuals or 16 automatic presses. That following that information, from the successful people that implement it, it makes sense. It does. Take out those steps.
Well, I think too, as you scale too, we always want to scale watching our processes, but how do we watch our raw materials too? Because now as you're scaling, go ahead, Mark.
Alan, we deal with it every single day.
Yeah.
Don't wait to order it when the bucket's empty. Okay, and it happens whether it's Easy Way chemicals, whether it's your Wilflex inks, your Rutland inks. You use white ink pretty much probably every day in the print shop, and all of a sudden you don't have any. And then the way things are sometimes, for example, say you're using 701 in a drum. Yeah. Well, we try to inventory everything, but sometimes we might not have it, or it's coming in. Don't wait till it's gone. Don't wait till it's empty. Keep that back going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then I think too, we need to look even deeper as people are scaling on raw materials. One, do they have that? Do they have a supplier that can handle their needs as they scale? But what about the product? Because when you're scaling and you have a raw material that might be your holdup, Mark, you and I know, and Josh, you've seen this, where all inks will print. But how do they? Especially as you're automated. There's a reason I was told people, everybody complains about pricing of, say, Wilflex or Rutland or something. And, there was a reason why Rutland and Wilflex were always number 1 and 2 and some of the most expensive. It's not because, are they better inks? It's because they run faster without building up. That machine
consistency, consistency and repeatable every time, dude. We know what's going to happen. We know what pressures to run. We've built the artwork to run with the ink. We're not throwing something random in there and going, man, we know what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen. Our team knows what's going to happen, and we can predict the results. So that's our problem. That's what we're looking for.
Well, and I see an overuse of roller squeegees, stampinators, hotheads, and stuff like that. Because what's that?
They're Band-Aids. That's all they are.
They're Band-Aids. How about this? Use a better shirt. Increase your production times.
Well, I'm glad it's one of the subjects that
Mark's head's going to explode because him and I talk about this. Yeah,
it comes down to hey, they're out there, people use them, but proper screen tension, your thread diameter, sharp squeegees, your squeegee angle, your pressure, your speed. When I teach classes and I teach efficiencies on autos, and people bring up, the hothead, the roller squeegee, you don't need them. if our other processes are all in line. You know,
100%.
I see countless, 18 Colorados with 3 flashes, and they're running a 2-color job, but all 3 flashes are on.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What's the point?
Right.
Now, all those things have their place. Now, I can sit here and say, I don't print on every single garment. There may be some real crappy stuff out there that you really do need, a hothead or a Stampinator or something like that. But to see them running on every single job, and you ask, well, what's the benefit you're getting with it? And it's like crickets. You don't hear it. But what I see constantly, all the time, whether it's a Stampinator, whether it's a hothead, people are running low cure ink. They're doing their underbase. They're flashing it. Then they're stamping it or ironing it, and you're curing the underbase.
Yep.
Then your plastisol on top delaminates. There's no intercoat adhesion. It cracks and it washes off, but it's the ink's fault.
Yeah.
It's a tool, and you have to use it correctly. You just can't put that much heat onto something like that, and it just.
I'm seeing those tools used more just because of a crappy shirt, a very fuzzy shirt, that they're stamping it, they're heat pressing it down so they can get a smoother underbase, which is fine. But now, if you do this every job, and if that's your go-to shirt, man, go to a higher shirt, increase your production speeds, make money.
Right.
And this is Go ahead, Josh. What were you going to say?
We use ours for crappy garments. We try to talk them into nicer garments where we know we can control it. But there's garments that you can't control. And we use it for a link control as well. If you got nasty shirts, you can use a hot iron on head one, and it kind of irons all that crap flat so you can print over it and you don't get a bunch of pickup,
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's all about, looking at these, especially now, as you're saying, you're scaling. When you're on a manual, one automatic, that's one thing. When you're going to your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th auto, now these are the processes which these little Band-Aids now are falling off, and that small little paper cut is now a hemorrhage.
You got it.
You just don't realize it. So absolutely. We got some comments
on
here.
On top of the garment, not through the garment. That's what you got to learn how to do.
Well, that's ink. Yeah, oh my gosh. You're preaching to the choirs on this one. Yeah.
You should see the job we printed yesterday. Well, I can. It's on the pallet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I do the seminar, printing better whites, and I always go, how many people finally have, you're working to get that one color white on a black shirt, and then you finally get that good print, and then you realize that print is just as good on the pallet or the inside of the shirt. Yes. And I'd actually say, everybody raises their hand. I'm like, yeah, here's why. And but we've all been there. I mean, we laugh and we go, man, why do they do it? Well, we've all been there and done that. So,
yeah,
absolutely.
I've made more mistakes than those people. It happens.
Yeah, it does. But it shouldn't happen all the time. Cindy says, very nice was the Josh Shops organization. So, Ray Greenwood says, hey, Screenlings. Hi, Josh and Mark. I know Ray's been in your shop. And ordering in a calculated higher volume is key to creating lower production costs. Yep. And you know what? When you have a good supplier, someone that you have, my thing is you can order from anybody. When I have clients asking me about Easy Way products going, do I have to order from this distributor or from GSG? You know what? Let's face it, you can go online and order from anybody. You could order from one of our, and Josh, if you want a better price on chemical, you can call Raw Tech and they'll give you a great price. I'm sure they would love that business from you. It might take 8 weeks by boat, considering you're in Sydney, Australia. But hey, you know what? Can you do that? That is not an advantage to you now.
And even when you're scaling up, you can get into that, size of where now you have consignment. The distributor is managing your inventory.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about it at that point.
Right.
It just makes sense.
Josh, Ray says, come on, Al, you should be ordering your chemicals in pints. Actually, we hate making them in quarts even because it's just more production, same thing.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah.
If it was really up to us. They would do drums and fives, and that's it.
Well, a lot of ink manufacturers are getting away from quartz. Also.
Yeah. Now, a distributor, especially somebody like GSG and some of the other ones which have DM4s, man, you can do custom core colors and charge a premium, and that's
And we do. Like we'll do court colors. We actually, we have a few customers for their own reasons. They don't have a mixing system. We make all their colors in fives.
Yep.
Weekly. It makes sense for them. They don't have to worry about it. We manage it. It's done.
Yep.
GSG, we've started the colors we use all the time. I mean, we mix a lot still here in house, but anything that we're using on a regular basis, and I want consistency, I started having GSG mix it for me.
Yeah.
It's cheaper. I order it by the 5 or the gallon, and it's consistent every time. And then my guys don't have to mix a gallon and waste all my base. Let me use these custom colors that I'm charging for on a consistent basis, And like the vendor relationship with GSG, the Granberries are at the top of my list, man. I tell you what, those are good people. And I would buy from them at a higher price just because of the way they treat their employees, the way the employees treat their customers, and being able to call Mark or call Steve or call any of my guys and get us to where we're at. If you're not a GSG customer, you should at least give them a shot, man.
There was the plug. We didn't even pay him for that one. So Jitendra's here from India.
I have to buy lunch or something one day.
Exactly. Jitendra, good to see you from India, if I remember right. So yeah. What do you got? A question here. Is there any standard formula to calculate wet ink deposit? Depend on print area percentage, not VTH. Mark, this is in your area. Go ahead.
The IMS software from Avian.
Yep.
True. Lily, yeah.
We use it to mix on, like, if we've got a job and we need 144 pieces and the image is 11 by 7 and we only need 500 grams, we'll mix like 550. And I mean, it's dead to the T.
Right.
Yep.
But, of course, like I said, you can put that in IMS software, put in approximately what your print area percentage is, your mesh count, and that's going to give you a good calculated wet ink deposit formula.
Yeah, you can do it by weight, or you can do it by percentage of coverage. What we did, a couple years ago, one shop, small order for us was like 45,000 shirts, but we'd be running 250,000, 500,000 piece orders, and we would actually take that print, each color, weigh the fabric was printed on, weigh the wet ink. And then that's how we would judge how much ink we needed for that shop. I'm not real good at figuring out what my percentage is there, so but more by weight.
Right.
There you go.
Mark, we got a question here for you from Canada.
I'm not the person to answer that. I can find out. I'll certainly find out.
Chris, if I were you, I would call corporate office on the 1-800 number.
Yeah, I can look into that and ask. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Sheehan says, "Thank you very much for the information on that. That's what we're here for, man. Thanks for the question." What else we got on here? We've been there. Let's do this real quick. Let's talk about trends and printing. What are you guys seeing out there?
Right now?
Yeah, you brought it up. So
puff and glow in the dark. It's kind of blowing up right now. It's almost daily that we have people inquiring, and people that are want to know how to print it properly, just what's available. But it seems like puff comes in those kind of, it's up, it's down,
waves.
It's up, it's down. Yeah. And for right now, for some reason, it's back.
And people forget how to print. Puff has been around forever on
Easy.
there.
Super easy.
Super easy. It wasn't. Remember back in the day, Mark, it was brutal to print until Wilflex came up with New Puff.
Yep.
And stuff. And
it's like you touched on before, it just comes down to your process. That's really it.
Yep.
Puff can be finicky, but it's so heat sensitive. You can print it, but your dryer temperature, your retention time is key, because puff will expand, and in too much heat, too much time, it'll collapse.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Especially if you're doing a large area. And then, you spoke of that earlier, Alan, with doing, the halftone with it.
Yep. We used to, I knew Mark, when I was selling a lot of ink, a lot of puff, we would say use a stochastic print.
Yeah.
Halftone, 50% stochastic. But I think now it's just a 50% halftone. Is that what you recommend?
Yeah, that's what most people do. Yeah.
Josh, are you seeing a lot more specialty stuff coming through to you?
We just took a 72-piece order yesterday for puff with an outline. We do a lot of glitter flake. We do a lot of reflective. We do a lot of glitter ink. We use Mark's little setup. We make our own glitter in house with Nova base and print on a similar Pantone color underneath, wet on wet, and it's really profitable for us as well. People don't realize you can charge $3 to $4 more a shirt.
Upcharge.
Great upcharge.
Screen,
Yeah.
And the customer doesn't need to know that you're not doing anything else than back in the house. I mean, the ink's considerably more expensive, and it takes time to mix it and stuff like that. But you've got to upcharge for that, and the customer wants to see it. And if you can do it, print it and put it in your showroom. If they can see it, they're like, "Ooh, what's that? That's shiny." It's like a man at a Harley shop. He might want in there for a Sportster, but if he sees the bagger on the side, he goes, "Man, that's really cool too. Can I afford that?" If they can't see it, they're not going to buy it. So, I mean, you've always got to show what you can do. And now that I know it to me, like hearing it, talking to y'all, I'm already formulating the plan to go build Google ads to sell puff. So, like, I'm going to go sell puff. Here we go. I'm going to something I can do really well. So,
and I think, Mark, we have to remember, guys, puff is different than, say, a high density or a plush or something like that. So sometimes there's a lot of expanding inks. So let's make sure that we're talking just puff.
I'm just talking regular puff, run of the mill puff.
Yep.
The one thing that we had to learn is if you're mixing a Pantone, it'll come out 10 to 15% lighter. I had to get on the phone with Mark several times with that.
Yeah.
So don't really tell a customer you can match a Pantone.
If you're going to match a Pantone, and you're using like the IMS, and you have new puff base, you pick that as your base. Or if you aren't using IMS, and what you want to do is drop the white out of your formula. Take the white out, mix the color in, do a test print, run it through the dryer. Then you'll learn if you need to add a little bit more white, because any ink that expands is going to lighten the color.
Yeah,
it just does.
I also, Mark, back in the day, man, did you ever do this? I'd recommend people, if they were doing a red puff or a black puff, to underbase there with a black underbase as it puffed up too.
Yeah, there's all kinds of neat tricks. I know Chris had a comment about all the different things you can do with it, and you can. It's pretty cool ink.
Yeah, there's a lot. But yeah, it depends on the effect you're looking for. But that's where we want to make sure that it's. Remember, there's different things. You can get a plush, you can get a chenille look. Those are all with different expandables.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Ray says another issue of puff is the excessive moisture in shirt dye. Well, it's not so much the shirt dye, I think, is it the moisture that's in shirts. We're now in the summer and spring, and now the shirts are going to get moisture, and that's on curing with all plastisol. So we have to be aware.
On dehumidifiers in our shop, and let the shirts set out in the print area for a day before we print. You can no longer print in the summertime in Oklahoma the day the shirts come in, because they've been crazy moisture, and we need to bring them back down into the 35 to 40% moisture range before we print, because the steam will come out of the back of the dryer. I mean, you'll see it coming out of the back of our dryer.
Yep, absolutely. And when you see steam and when you see smoke, that's not from the ink. That is from your shirt. So, yeah, absolutely. Chris says, I'm building a showcase book of all of our prints. I don't think I have one standard print in there yet. It's all specialty, not a bad thing. William Mitchell says, I ran a glow job last week. I have a 2-color glow next week. So these are the hot trends. So
They are.
Yeah. You could probably do a whole show on puffing. It's not your one-trick pony. Absolutely. Some of both moisture and dye blowing out the black shirts, but smoke steam can overpuff the ink.
Yep,
absolutely on it. And that's something too, as you were saying, you got to watch, do a little bit of testing, watch your temperature, because that puff will expand and it'll collapse like a cake on there.
So guys, spend the $400 and get you a donut probe.
Absolutely, and learn to use it. So we have, we're going to go right here. So because of all this, the trends, we were talking about what we're picking, the pick of the week out of the GSG Pulse. So if you haven't gone, the Pulse is the quarterly magazine for apparel decorating on all the specials and stuff from GSG. So this week on it, we actually picked International Coatings, the glow in the dark, and the International Coatings ultra reflective Optilux, which you know what, reflective, the Optilux is a great reflective. It is a little pricey, but all of them are, and so is glow in the dark.
yeah,
Use very little of them, and man, if you're not upcharging for this, you're missing it.
yep.
4 times a year on the reflective, dude. It's so easy to print, one hit, high production, and the guys love it. And we upsell it because the guys won't wear their safety vests, but they'll wear a hoodie or they'll wear a t-shirt. So we sell them like that, and their OSHA violations go down, and the guys are safe. And it's smooth printing, but you got to listen. You got to follow their rules, man. If you take any variations from their specs, the print turns out pretty nasty pretty quick.
Yep. And I have found the International Coatings Optilux to be one of the better reflectives out there to print. I find it's still finicky, but it's less finicky than a lot out there. It's a great product. And the glow in the dark, the IC glow in the dark, man, what a great product. We see a lot of it around Halloween, but man, it should be used all the time.
And the bucket looks cool on the shelf too.
It does look cool on the shelf. So these are things that people need to get it and start playing with it. Chris said puff also blows out 180 degrees versus 90 degrees like HD. It's very surprising how many people confuse HD with puff. You are correct. And reminder that Chris is in Canada, so that's 180 degrees Celsius. He's doing under Celsius. So
yeah, you got to clarify that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't cure it at 180. It's not going to puff. Sean says the donut. Absolutely.
Yep.
Gotta have it. It's all what makes incredible printers. It's the tools.
It's the tools. You can't measure it, without it.
Anybody can print it once.
Yep. The thermal probe for checking your dryer is absolutely the most important tool you can have. It just is,
Yep. And you know what, Mark, for guys like you and me who are in shops, you know what I say about tools? Tools have no opinion. Now it's not, well, Josh said, Alan said, Mark said, I read this on a forum.
Yeah.
This person said, tools don't care. Tools don't lie.
Nope. And they work if they're used properly.
Absolutely. So, I was in a shop this week and, they were running into a reclaim issue. They're looking at an auto reclaim. They need one. They're at 150 screens a day, but they're having trouble cycling out. Well, on some of their discharges, they're breaking down. So there's only 2 reasons for a breakdown. You're either your screens aren't dry, or you're not post-exposing right, or you're underexposed. Right. Plain and simple. So I go in there, we do an exposure test. They are way underexposed. So, I don't sell emulsion anymore. It's just what I do. So as I'm leaving, their operation manager's going, dude, you just saved us. And I look at them and I said, let's step aside. I go, I didn't just save you. I have created a bigger problem for you now.
Yeah.
I said, your exposure now needs to be 4 times more.
Yeah.
Because your screen production's out. I go, you've got to figure it out. And this is what I do. Let me know. They buy nothing from me. Go ahead, keep buying from me. How's that help?
I have to tell you, I'm going to say percentage-wise, 90% of the shops I go into are underexposing their screens. With LEDs, people are like, we're getting a 4-second exposure. No, you're not. You're going to have, it's going to create problems. And a lot of times, I'll just say with a Ulano emulsion, for example, they may be exposing it for 12, 14 seconds when the reality is after you run an exposure calculator, you need to be at 28 seconds.
Yep.
There's drastic underexposure out there.
Well, this shop, for all they do, they said it's only on discharge screens. They said because Plastisol's so forgiving. And I said, the problem with LEDs where, our LEDs, part of it, they're not going away, so we deal with it. But you just got to know how they work. It's almost like cooking a hamburger on a pan without flipping it. Can you do it? It's going to get real hard on one side. It's going to stay soft on top. And that top part is where your squeegee is. And to quote Richard Greaves, you're now taking a big eraser to it. And when you're running discharge, now the water and the solvent are now breaking it down.
Yep.
So we just have to know that. Yeah, when I hear people going, I have a 3-second, a 4-second exposure, I'm like, oh my Lord. I hate that.
Think of it this way, because everything costs money. So if you have to expose your screens a little longer, there's a cost there. What is it? It's going to be extremely minimal because we're talking seconds.
Yeah.
But if you're running a discharge job on press, you have 12 shirts on the machine, 23 shirts in the dryer, and they all have breakdown on the side. What costs more, 12 seconds or replacing 30 garments?
Yep, exactly. And that's where the shop, when I'm talking about, the girl in charge of the screen room, and she's doing a great job. She goes, I'm not going to get screens out. And I said, this is a pay me later, pay me now. You go back and underexposed, but I go, you're going to be doing double the screens because you're redoing them or running out there fixing them. Yep.
So, I've seen a lot of shops. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. Several shops in the past year, they've adapted the use of an exposure room instead of just the single unit. Where they'll actually have the bank of like 8 screens on the wall.
Oh, nice.
And they'll have the freestanding exposure unit, and boom, there you go. There's 10 done.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ball banks. We have a 31 by 40. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris says, he goes, I can get an exposure at 20 seconds on my LED, but it's garbage. Yeah. A perfect burn takes a minute and 10 seconds. Yeah, absolutely. Reclaim is faster as well with exposed screens. You save
exactly 100%. Yeah.
That's where you see the first stages of you've got something going on, man. When it starts flaking off and splatting all over everywhere, you go like, man, we got something wrong here.
Yeah. Well, and I hear in my world, I hear, well, I'm having a staining problem. Really? Is the stain ink color or is the stain? No, it's kind of this brown amber stuff. Yeah, well, you're underexposed. Who is that?
That's the wild animals here.
Oh, God. What is that? Yeah.
That's my one dog talking. He's kind of being ignored right now.
I saw Josh, one of your kids in there.
No, that's Mark's kids, man.
Every day is an adventure here, man.
Yeah. So, man, this is some great.
The new house too. He's not acclimated.
Yeah. Still not sure where everything is. Well, Mark,
I don't know where things are. I told you before I couldn't find the bathroom.
I know.
Me either.
You just moved and had to leave. You've only been
we moved in, and 48 hours later, I went out of town.
Yeah, came back and going, where's the other bathroom at?
Yeah,
that's too funny. That's awesome. And there, so that was awesome on trends, and we could do another show just on puff and expandables on there.
You can. I mean, specialty inks alone, man, you could do days on it. the stuff it's so cool. You can upcharge, and upcharge is more money, more profit. And I see some people are afraid of them, or they don't know how to use them. And that's why we do tons of videos on specialty inks.
Right.
They're easy. They really are.
I remember, early on, I remember watching Lon Winters. He made special effects just look not scary.
Yeah, they're easy.
This is when I first met him. And then, Mark, I came into one of your seminars at one show. You were doing that, and you were just standing back, and people are tapping foil and everything and creating shirts and just going, oh, man, this is so easy. And those people are making a ton of money now.
Yeah, we did in Long Beach. In fact, Josh was at that seminar. We did the 3 layers of high density simulated leather, and people were literally standing there going, what?
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. It's not that difficult.
Yep.
It's your process. It's your good screens, That's what it is.
Yep. Okay, we got a quote here, a comment, and we got about 5 minutes left. And so Mark, you and I might have to debunk some of this and just say a little bit of what it is there. So Chris says, I always put my screens in the sun after washing out to make reclaim faster and stop premature breakdown on press.
As in post-exposing?
Yeah, well, one, you're in Canada, so I don't know how much sun's way up there in Saskatchewan, but whatever. Or Alberta, where he's in, not Alberta, he's in Calgary. But, Mark, you and I, the sun is the best source of UV for exposing screens. Problem is you just can't control it.
No.
For post-exposing, sure. Now, as he said, not Calgary. He is in Saskatchewan. My bad. Not all emulsions will post-expose.
True.
And I think we forget about that. Most of your dual cures hardly post-expose at all after the washout because the diazo is gone and the cross-linking is gone.
Yeah, it's mostly just your photopolymers.
Yeah. And
I can tell you a funny story real quick. Back in like the 70s, making screens where we would take, the film and you actually put spray adhesive on it and stick it to the screen and take it out in the sun. And our screen guy would smoke a cigarette. And by the time he was done with the cigarette, the screen was exposed. Take it in and wash it out. Well, then we had this issue that all the screens were overexposed. That's because rust switched to 100s and the cigarette was longer. So,
so my first experience with exposing a screen in the sun was I worked at the old Harco Graphic. We're at the branch. And we go to the large screen for a customer. We had a vacuum frame there. So we plug in the vacuum frame, we put the artwork in and the screen and stuff, and we cover it with a black sheet. And we're out there, and he goes, open the dock doors now. And it was just rolling out there and out there. He goes, and we flip it up. He goes, now time it. And it's like, okay, 30, that's enough. Because while it would have been a 10-minute exposure on a diazo one, not in the sun, man, because it was so powerful. But yeah, that was the first time I ever did. That was hilarious. I'll never forget that. So yeah, the old trick. So yeah, sometimes, and I think post-exposing is, again, it's become a Band-Aid where because of the influx of so much LED, that it's softer on the squeegee side and you're having to post-expose more. So Chris, I know the unit you have, it's one of the better LEDs. I would check your exposure test again. And if it's breaking down or you're having trouble reclaiming, there might be an issue there. So although you are doing real thick, for silicone and high density too. So I can understand that then too. Josh, how do you measure all your stuff in your shop, in your screens?
The Kiwo test strip, the
exposure calculator.
Right.
Geez, We use it on everything. We test our EOMs. We pretty much have right at anywhere from 15 to 18% on our lower mesh counts, all the way up to 15 on our higher mesh counts. We run everything, and then we built a custom dot tone test all the way from 1% all the way to 98.
Yep.
And then once we get everything dialed in, we push there, and we'll undercure by maybe a couple LTUs up and down to hold that 2 and 3% dot for us, because I'm a screen print nerd, and we want that fine detail. But we get that, and then we put it back in a hot box. So we're just right there. We play with it where it's not milky. We know it's cross-linked. We know it's reclaiming well. So we know we're playing with the chemistry just right to get it where we would like it. And that's kind of how we dial it in. We get it exactly where. And then if we're having a problem, we have a Saudi strip too that we throw on the exposure unit all the time just to double check real quick if we're having a little problem. And normally somebody's hit the button on the coder and it's going too fast or too slow, and we're putting a little less or a little more emulsion on. So we've just documented everything. We have recipes for everything, speeds for everything. My screen room, I put more in my screen room than probably 90% of the shops, maybe 95% of the shops. We're a retentionable shop frame. My whole shop's at 30 newtons. We just switched over to back to S-thread, and we're holding everything at 30 newtons across the board. Even our 305s are setting at 32. And man, we're having just great times printing our bases back at 22 to 25 psi. Our top colors are coming out at 30 psi. I mean, it's great life, man. It really is.
Yeah, and I love that you have measured everything to do it. I think people don't realize. See, and I'm a big fan of the 21-step grayscales, and Sadi has them, and Murakami and other people have them. But, those are just Stouffer 21-step grayscales you can get from Stouffer. Those are great items for just checking exposure. I love that you have also done your dot patterns, because that's, when I see people going, yeah, you can print off an exposure calculator. No, you can't. You've printed off a dot pattern.
Yeah.
And every printer is different.
Yeah.
And that's showing you what dots you can hold.
And they're not.
That doesn't tell you of total
expensive
exposure. No, they're not expensive at all on there. So
print it on a shirt and look at your dot gain on press and see what's happening at different angles. I think that's where people lose their testing. Hey man, I held that 3% dot on the screen, but can I hold that on a t-shirt? Well, you might be able to, but not if you're printing at 60 psi to get the ink to clear. You might not be. You might be filling in your 20% dot.
Right.
So you've got to test throughout, and there's downtimes throughout the year to put testing in. You just got to plan it. You can't just, oh man, I think I'm going to test. I want to test. You've got to plan the testing and then capture it and use it on a daily basis.
Right. Absolutely. Well, guys, I don't know if you realize it, but we're over time already.
Oops.
That's all right. We go over time all the time. So, that's what happens. So, man, we need to do this again. There was so much we didn't, we couldn't get to. And
you can go for hours.
Yeah. And this is something that, all three of us live in. This is our wheelhouse of better screen print production and stuff. And we do a lot in Q&A with Marshall with, marketing and stuff. And that's important. And sales and stuff, because you got to have a healthy shop all the way through.
I had a printer telling me, he's like, yeah, we're terrible at printing, but man, we know how to sell.
Yeah. You can get that customer once. Can you keep them? Yeah.
I'm like, is that the sign above the door?
Yeah, exactly. Chris says I could sit here all day and talk on the subject. You might have too much time and need more business. But man, this is pretty. Chris, come on down to a trade show. This is what we do.
Yeah.
So it happens all day, all through the night and stuff. So this is what we do. Well, everyone, Mark, Josh, thank you so much for
it was fun
being on the show. This was a great one. As always, GSG, thank you for your sponsorship and your support. This is what we do. Of course, GSG wants to sell product and wants to be there, but it's about the service and what's the value added. That's what we do at Easy Way. You need an exposure test done. Let's do it. Let's make sure the processes are right. So everybody have a great weekend. Thank you for chiming in. And yeah, man, we had questions from all over the world. So
that's
not a bad thing. So all right, guys.
See ya.
Don't go anywhere
right.
in the broadcast. And
Sure.
everybody have a
You
great
got it.
weekend. Be safe.
Thanks, everyone.